welcome to Joseph's Model Railway and Toy Room. Thank you so much for joining me. Just a little bit of housekeeping. You don't need to follow or subscribe. I just put the videos out where I can, just as a little bit of a documentation of the journey. Now, we are back to the Model Railway. We've had a few little distractions along the way, but here we are. So we're getting ready to do our feature run at the moment, but also because of delays that we've had, we finally have the parts acquired to get on with understanding what we're going to do with controlling the points. Now, as I've discussed in earlier videos, what I really wanted to do is use the Mortartech system that was available, made here in Australia, but no longer they're making the kits anymore, with a wire in tube method for our points to change over. I like the idea that we're actually doing something on the layout to do it. And indeed, the option that we've gone with is DCC Concepts, and they actually do the levers that I can actually swap over and do if I want in the future. However, while it is a mechanical lever you do move, the movements that happen thereafter that will happen electronically. Still, for the moment, because this isn't a large complex layout, we're only needing to focus on about 10 to 12 points or turnouts. So the option that I've gone for that they've made available seems rather fitting. I make no apology in the past 40 years of my life or more that I've never had the luxury of having points or turnout motors that had been motorized in any description. So it's all rather exciting for me. I've always thought it was quite fascinating. I love the wiring that goes along with it, and apart from helping some other members on their layouts and just soldering up the standard sort of Pico underboard ones with the flick movement, I really haven't enjoyed it on my own level. And I must admit, if I flick through back to my childhood of the 80s and 90s in any Model Railway magazine, as the tortoise motors appeared, the big green boxes that a lot of people still use, which have become the benchmark for years, I thought I was going to go that way. Why have we ended up with DCC Concepts? Well, there's really not much between those two motors whatsoever. DCC Concepts is a new player in that field, although very well established now. They have solutions to everything, including making their own track now, which should give Pico a bit of a run for the money. But the reason what seems so appealing to me is lifetime warranty on all the parts, including these particular turnout motors that we're going to have a quick look at. Now, this is really just the first part. We're going to come back and look at more and more videos to do with this later on, but this is just really simplistic in the approach that I've gone for, because my point motors aren't going to be controlled via DCC. Shock there. I like the idea that there's just what was always a mimic panel for a lot of people. There's just going to be a control panel I can push, the points change, and we carry on driving the trains in any configuration you wanted to do. The option I've gone for is highly scalable and can be completely automated where necessary, but I do like this hands-on approach. Again, there's not much going on the layout as it is, so I like that integrated operation. Acquiring these point motors has been a long saga, more than 12 months, I'm not going to lie to you. In fact, it all started about when I saw a solution from DCC Concepts with this particular controller, which gives me direct access to any 12 points, and you can just go one way or the other way, and it illuminates, as we'll see later on. This seemed like the absolute perfect solution to what I needed. It's clean, it's simple, and quite cost effective. However, that's where things took a little bit of a sour turn. Unfortunately, the sales representative I was dealing with in Australia hasn't been half as helpful as John from DCC Concepts that I've now been dealing directly with in the UK. As I understood it, I just simply needed to have this control panel, a magic box we shall call it, and then somehow it was plugged into the power. That's all I needed to do. The points would be daisy chained along, so we didn't need to have separate runs of wiring to them, and everything would be right in the world. Well, wouldn't you know it. So the chap sent me up the board, which we had, didn't get a power supply. He said, we'll be waiting on that. Okay, and sent me the DCC Concepts sniffer, which is an item that I did point out in an earlier video, and I have since on-sold. I still couldn't get the power supply to make it all work. It sat in the corner. Also, I did acquire the points, which here we go. Box of 12 points, which anyone that's purchased these point motors before will know they're not exactly cheap. Unfortunately, what I wasn't told at the time is to do what I wanted to do in the simplest manner, is that this is the analog version of them and is no good for what we need. These are currently for sale, and if you're interested, let me know. More months had passed by, and I know I need to get the digital ones, of which now we have. The downside is, though, we were waiting on a container that had these in them to arrive. Let's fast forward now some 9 months, and here we are. Now that we have those point motors, of course, we need to make it operational, to which I sold that DCC sniffer because John had told me you won't need it. And instead, what have we ended up with? Well, let's get the camera in closer and have a look. Well, here we are with what I will call complete and utter overkill for what I need. Originally it was just this box. A curly cord comes into the DC sniffer, which was a little tiny box about this size, and as you'll see in this diagram, and from there off to the power point, and then the 2 wires to your track. Well, that didn't happen, and instead here we are with what's happened. Our power, which is coming in over here to the alpha power system, that then travels into our alpha box, and then into my control panel. Now, if we just take a moment, I'm not going to go into all the complexities of all of this, but you'll see comprehensive options for wiring things up. And if we just take a really quick look at the brochure, the whole idea here is this is designed to run as a standalone system with multiple ones linked together, of course, but then it talks about all our different types of brands of DCC systems that people will be using. Easy Command, Gaugemasters Prodigy system, the NCE system, Digitrax, of course, a popular one. Those that are watching Charlie, Chadwick Model Railways will know that that's what he's committed to. We've got the Rocco system, which the Weil Model Railway Club use, and I always thought was seemed the most user-friendly approach. I really do like that one. And they give you excellent instructions of what you've got to do, including the same sentence which is used over and over again, which simply says, it really is that easy. And it's true. So fantastic stuff there. DCC Concepts documentation, of course, is absolutely second to none. They have YouTube videos, and their support, and I can speak on behalf of this, has been absolutely faultless. I really also appreciate a company who has gone the extra effort of making something that, in respect to their customer service, but also the fact that they're giving you obviously a 12-month warranty, but like on the point motors, it's a lifetime warranty. And for the average person like me, I won't even scratch 1% of the possible usage these units have got. With all these additional boxes, it means my expandability on this can become so much greater. If I do want to integrate to my DCC layout, I can do it. It's unlikely, but if I did want to do touchscreen and automation and stuff, I know that my options are available. And I also have a nice clean power supply feeding everything, as opposed to some generic box on the wall. Right. I've just created a little bit of a simple demonstration we're going to go through now. I've also been using, as you've seen me in other videos, use these Wago connectors. They're a nice simple one. You flick the lever up, you put your cable in and out, nice and simply. I've just got these ones folded back, and flick it down and it's locked in. And we use these on electrical systems and all sorts of things. I don't mind telling you that during the rest of the build of the layout underneath the board, don't expect to see a lot of these. I'm probably still going to be using a screw-in terminal or something similar. I've got no problems with these. The cost of buying these is quite reasonable these days. But when I get under there, we're going to be doing a few other tricky things. So this is not necessarily the best way to go. But the simple thing is, what you've created here using this system is you've got a nice simple bus, so to speak, that we just split out and we tap into each one. And is it really that simple? Yes, but then I can already hear you saying you're going to have some complications. And the first complication that happened to me is rather embarrassing. I had all my bits, I had it wired up, I looked at the YouTube video and thought, that's brilliant. It's a Friday night, I've got a few minutes to myself, let's put it together. So I've plugged it all in as per the instructions, and I turned it on, and wouldn't you know it, I went to flick the switch to program it, and nothing happened. And this went on for about an hour. I kept rereading the instructions to no avail, and I just literally had given up. You're supposed to set this into the programming mode, push a button, and it moves. Well, as you can see, it doesn't. So what on earth has gone wrong? Well, let's have a look. We turned on our master power switch and we've got a blue light. So between you and me, I understand that as being on. We move over to the next box and it's on. And this is clearly lit up with our blue circle and we're going to call that on. So wouldn't you know it, let me save you a whole bunch of messing around and have a look right here at which I didn't look at. You will need to push this button, which kind of is a little disappointing because if I do decide to mount this somewhere, this box will need to be accessible so we can turn it on. If you take nothing else away from this video, just please let it make sure that you know about that power switch. Right, now we've just got them all plugged in. So if we just push number 1 here, and you'll see these moving. Well, that's fantastic, except for one slight thing. That means if I wire 12 up and push them, they're all going to move at the same time. No good, I hear you say. Well, you're 100% right. So what do we do to counteract that? Well, of course, like anything, the first ones that are going to be wired up are going to be, by default, number 1. So let's leave that as number 1 for the minute, and let's concentrate on this one as number 2. And now, if we bring it up, as I mentioned before, what I like about these as opposed to the tortoise motors is the fact that this is just a simple push and pull to get the wire in and out. We don't have to screw anything. If I do need to do some maintenance under the board later down the track, it's going to be as simple as grabbing a small screwdriver and you simply push down. As you can see, I'm just pushing down and you can slide your wires in nice and simple. When it comes to programming, once again, fantastic stuff. They've given you a little switch here, which it's got 2 positions. We have a set position and we have a run position. So all we need to do is pop it to the set position and choose any button you like on your board. Obviously we're going 1 through to 12. And in this case, we would be crazy not to take, we'll just take the end one, shall we? Number 12. So we'll push number 12. And now if we push run again on 12, isn't that fantastic? So again, 1, and of course 12. And it really is that simple. I kid you not, that's all we need to do. I think it's an absolutely elegant solution for what I need to do. Again, we've got 3 points operating down the far end. The main feature will be our concentration here, and anything left over, well, we'll deal with that as we come. But that's all, and I think it's absolutely magnificent. DCC Concepts also allows you to connect multiple units together. You can also, they have pre-done wiring kits for yard lighting if you want to have your yard lights automatically down. And the other thing they have is custom mimic panels that you can customize and just wire off and it'll light up accordingly. Why I like this particular control panel though is that's sort of been done for me. In a future video, I'm going to come back and talk about this a little bit with all the extra options that are available. Again, for those DCC operators and that, obviously, if you're using ElectroFrog, you can obviously have the frog wired up into the right polarity. And some other tricky things which I want to touch back on is I'm actually going to be running my signal lights coming straight from the box. So red and green, depending on what's just happened. But we'll talk about that in a future video. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one. Toodles!